Today, our topic is how to face death without fear. Death is something everyone thinks about, but not everyone talks about. It is a natural part of life, yet it often brings fear, sadness, and confusion. Many people avoid thinking about death because it feels uncomfortable or scary. But what if we could face death without fear? What if we could see it as a natural part of existence and even find peace in it? This is not an easy task, but it is possible. Let's explore how we can approach death with courage and calmness, using wisdom from philosophy, especially Stoicism, and practical advice for our daily lives. First, let's talk about why death scares us. Fear of death is deeply rooted in our minds. We fear the unknown, the idea of losing control, and the thought of leaving behind everything we love. We worry about what happens after we die, whether there is something beyond this life or just emptiness. These fears are natural, but they can become overwhelming if we let them control us. The key is not to avoid these feelings, but to understand them and learn how to manage them. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, offers powerful tools for facing death without fear. The Stoics believe that death is not something to be afraid of because it is a natural part of life. Just as we are born, we must die. It is not within our control, and worrying about it only takes away from the time we have to live fully. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Death is nothing terrible, for if it were, it would have seemed so to Socrates." What he meant is that death itself is not scary. It is our thoughts about death that make it frightening. If we change the way we think about death, we can reduce our fear. One of the most important Stoic practices is to remind ourselves regularly that life is short and uncertain. This might sound depressing, but it is actually liberating. When we accept that our time is limited, we learn to appreciate the present moment. We stop wasting time on things that don't matter and focus on what is truly important. The Stoics called this practice Memento Mori, which means remember that you will die. It is not about being morbid. It is about being mindful. By remembering that life is fleeting, we can live with more purpose and gratitude. Another Stoic idea is to focus on what we can control and let go of what we cannot. Death is not within our control. We don't know when or how it will happen, and we cannot change that. But what we can control is how we live our lives. We can choose to live with kindness, courage, and integrity. We can choose to make the most of every day and cherish the people we love. When we focus on what we can control, we feel more empowered and less afraid. Now, let's talk about practical ways to face death without fear. One of the best ways is to prepare for it. This might sound strange, but planning for death can actually help us feel more at peace. For example, writing a will or discussing our wishes with loved ones can give us a sense of control and clarity. It also helps those we care about know what to do when the time comes. Another way to prepare is to reflect on our lives and think about what we want to leave behind. What kind of legacy do we want to create? How do we want to be remembered? These questions can guide us to live more meaningfully. Another practical step is to talk about death openly. In many cultures, death is a taboo subject, and people avoid discussing it. But talking about death can help us process our fears and make peace with them. It can also bring us closer to the people we love. Sharing our thoughts and feelings about death can create deeper connections and understanding. It reminds us that we are not alone in our fears and that everyone faces the same reality. Meditation and mindfulness can also help us face death without fear. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to stay present and not get caught up in worries about the future. We can observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment and let them pass like clouds in the sky. Meditation can also help us connect with a sense of inner peace and acceptance. When we are calm and centered, we are less likely to be overwhelmed by fear. Religion and spirituality can also provide comfort for many people when thinking about death. Different religions offer different perspectives on what happens after death. And these beliefs can give people hope and reassurance. For example, some people believe in an afterlife where they will be reunited with loved ones, while others believe in reincarnation or a return to the universe. These beliefs can help people feel that death is not the end, but a transition to something greater. Even if you are not religious, you might find comfort in the idea that your energy or spirit will continue in some form. Another important point is to accept that fear is normal. It is okay to feel afraid of death. We don't have to be completely fearless to face death with courage. What matters is how we respond to that fear. Do we let it control us? Or do we acknowledge it and move forward despite it? Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. When we accept our fears, we can work through them and find strength within ourselves. Finally, let's talk about the importance of living a good life. When we live with purpose, love, and kindness, we create a life that is meaningful and fulfilling. We build strong relationships, contribute to the world, and make a positive impact. When we look back on our lives, we can feel proud of what we have done and the people we have touched. This sense of fulfillment can help us face death with peace and acceptance. We can say, I have lived well, and I am ready. In conclusion, facing death without fear is not about pretending that death doesn't matter or that it isn't sad. It is about accepting death as a natural part of life and finding ways to live fully in the time we have. By practicing Stoic principles, preparing for death, talking about it openly, and living with purpose, we can reduce our fear and find peace. Remember, death is not the opposite of life. It is a part of life. When we embrace this truth, we can live more courageously and appreciate the beauty of every moment. So, let us not fear death, but face it with open hearts and minds, knowing that we have lived well and loved deeply.